we're going to be talking about the upcoming book, The Holy Roller from ImageComics. We got a chance to get a preview for it. This is coming out on November 22nd. Let me go over the creative team. We will get into Clay put together a little bit of kind of like a. There's a lot of references in the book that we want to get into. So Clay put together a slideshow, but I'll give you a spoiler warning before we get into that. The first part will be non-spoiler for the review, but this is written by Rick Remender, Andy Samberg, and Joe Trotham, with art by Roland Boshi Moreno, Denicio on colors, letters by Rose Wooten. And let me give you a quick synopsis of the book. This is a series premiere. Everyone was sitting around wondering when comedy legend Andy Samberg would join superstar writer Rick Remender and Fall Out Boy's multi-talented Joe Trotham. So this book is written by people that all over the industry, all different kinds of entertainment industries, to write a comic book about a vigilante hero who smashes people's face with a bowling ball, and everyone's dreams have come true. With art by the fan favorite Roland Boshi, to care for his ailing father, Pro Bowler Levi Cohen, is forced to quit his dream job and return to his hometown, which he soon discovered has been overrun by neo-Nazis. With only a bowling ball collection to defend himself, Levy becomes the Holy Roller, a trick bowling ball wielding Jewish superhero battling to liberate his home and bowl a perfect game against crime. Kingpin meets Inglourious Bastards meets Batman, with equal parts action and humor in this special introductory issue, with 42 full pages of story, 2 issues for the price of 1, 3 writers for the price of 1, same low price. Clay, what did you think of Holy Roller?
I dug it. I'm a big fan of Rick Remender, though, so I was like going in, waiting for the stuff that is his part, and I feel like some of the bloody bowler scenes are really due to Rick's involvement in this. But you definitely get Andy Samberg's voice in this.
Yeah.
I pulled up some of the panels. I felt like you definitely hear his voice in the comic in some of the lines. It's weird because the tone shifts at time from really funny to really dark stuff. And so I don't know how it's going to maintain that through the rest of the book, because it's talking about some serious shit.
It was a little jarring, like, to say the least, because it starts very lighthearted. And you get a little bit of like drama, but it's more like teenage drama. Like, it's more like regular everyday type of drama, right? Also, I will say Rick Remender sometimes has main characters in his books that are not the most likable people. Like, I'm like, why am I supposed to be rooting for you, or why should I care? Specifically, I'm remembering a book called The Scumbag. I don't know if you've read that. It's very recent.
I haven't read that yet, but I was looking through his stuff and stuff I'm missing.
I read the first issue and I'm like, I don't think I like you, dude. I'm sorry. I don't know. I have to check back in on this book later. And I kind of felt not as harsh against Livia as him on that Scumbag book, but for this one, I'm like, I don't know that I like this main character either. He's not a bad person, but he's also not a good dude. He's like, it's very kind of like, middle of the road. So
it's also weird that like he has left and joined the Peace Corps, like or Greenpeace, and has just been great at it this whole time. And like, I don't know, this kind of
in-between story is. I feel like nothing in that opening sequence led me to believe that that's where this would end up. It was a little, like I said, just a little bit of a jarring trip through this, but when the drama hits, like, it hits hard. Like, it's pretty heavy stuff too, like all kinds of things. And I'm like, oh man, I need to read like something fun right after this to kind of get me leveled again. Let me pull up some preview art from the first few pages, and then we'll go into spoilers in a second, so we can take a look at your slides. So this is kind of the opening sequence. This is we're back in 1986. This is Levy's dad, and we'll talk about some of the references as well. But yeah, I mean, his dad is originally the Holy Roller, which I'll tell you this too. I didn't read the synopsis before going into this, so
I didn't either.
I figured based on the cover that he would turn into some kind of vigilante type of person. But even like, yeah, throughout this issue, I feel like we haven't fully gotten there yet. What do you think of that?
It's weird because in the beginning you get this early story of Levi and bowling. I mean, to me, I kind of got the Kingpin vibe, like we're going to be in this bowling world that takes place in arcades and stuff. And so like, I kind of thought we're going to be funny. And so we've got this kid who's being picked on in the arcade. And, obviously that gives him a great chance to have a hero's origin.
Yeah. I will say, I think the faces are very expressive all throughout the issue, which I really
the art's
like.
Great.
Like that really works. And the coloring too, like it really, like it captures the feel of the arcade. But then sometimes when there's darker moments, like here he's being bullied, but like this isn't just normal bullying. Like this dude is an asshole, and I love how Levy kind of defends himself with humor. Right. So I think that's very cool. So yeah.
Well, you see the
Overall,
earliest notes of racism in him.
yes. Oh, for sure. Like very much so. In a lot of these things. So I really like. It was just very interesting to explore that because, like you said, I mean, like we've kind of seen like some of the stuff is still out there, and so. All right. Before we get into spoilers, did you have any last non-spoilery thoughts for this book?
Nope.
Okay, let me pull up your slides now, and then we'll talk about. So we're gonna get into a little bit of spoilers. We're gonna, Clay went through and noted some of the references and things that this book was telling us. So let's see. Here we go. So this is from the opening page. I saw this too for sure.
Yeah.
I mean the iconic vet. So this is
You're
the
not
guy that
sharing it
wore.
yet.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not sharing it. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So here's some stuff from the opening pages, and you can. I mean that was.
I thought for
pretty
sure
quick.
it was Walter Sobchak, so I
Yeah.
pulled John Goodman from there, but the fact that he doesn't have the full beard, he kind of gave me vibes like the Jesus's partner. So it
Oh,
was just
okay.
the mustache. That's why I pulled him in here, because I was like, it almost looks like a mashup of
Like a
those two.
combination of the two. Yeah, because he's
Yeah,
supposed to be the current bowling champ, right?
yeah.
And
But
then his dad.
you've got the glasses, you've got the vest. It's Walter
Yeah.
Sobchak.
Also smoking indoors, man. The 80s. I
It
guess
was a
90s
free for
too.
all, man. It was a
I
free
don't
for
even
all.
remember when they stopped allowing smoking indoors, but I remember going. I can't believe we would go into restaurants and be like smoking or not. I'm like, who would want to eat surrounded by smoke?
Oh, I
All
hated that.
right,
Rick
next
shows up in his own book.
he does. I think Rick does. I mean, Remender does this a lot, where he will kind of self-insert like little cameos of himself. I missed
Yeah.
this. That was good eye for you. Like, um,
And the two kids are obviously inspired by
Stranger
the Stranger
Things.
Things kids.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. Which is really like kind of cool to put stuff like this on your book, just to it really helps. They're very good shortcuts or shorthand to get the reader like to understand kind of what you're going
Yeah,
for.
you could take something that's been done nowadays and say this is the 80s, and then
Yeah.
put those kids, and you immediately have that kind of trope. Now, I put this character in, like when he goes to talk to the captain on the boat, the captain talks like hunter-gatherer from the Venture Brothers.
Oh,
He just gave me that vibe. I wasn't saying he looked like anything, but he has that vibe, and it just cracked me up because I couldn't read that character without having that voice read it in my head.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I'm glad you were able to find the voice for the. I think for a lot of these characters, it takes a few issues for me to like connect it to something where they would sound like. So that's pretty cool. And
obviously, the main character is Sandberg.
Yeah, for sure.
And his dad is Judd Hirsch.
Yeah,
great Judd Hirsch.
I also like would definitely see that. It even makes me wonder, like, were they working on a treatment for like a TV show or a
yeah, because it's a weird introduction to his character like 20 years later, that he's just on this boat in a hammock. He's all buffed up, wearing a Rambo type headband, but he's working for Greenpeace, and they don't really respect him on deck, but the captain does.
Yeah, like what does he do for Greenpeace? Maybe he is kind of like the muscle where that helps him get out of trouble or something like that.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what exactly he did.
I also don't know exactly what Greenpeace does on a day-to-day basis, so like that's also
maybe he did clerical work. Who knows?
Maybe. All right.
But I dug it. I'm I'm a big Rick Remender fan, so
yeah,
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, we were just talking before the show that Image sent us some previews of the hardcover collections that they're re-releasing for the 10th anniversary of Black Science. So we're definitely going to dive into those. Expect a video. I want to do a video just showing what will be part of those collections, like what kind of back matter and stuff. So maybe we'll do a video on that. Maybe we'll read Black Science for next year. I think that'd be fun to get into. Rick Remender
we do that. We do that with Starman. We have like a Starman book club, and
yeah, Rick Remender has like I forget the name of his imprint. That Image. Oh, Giant Generator. Yeah, so very excited for that. Cool. Is there anything else on Holy Roller before we move on?
No, I'm just kind of curious because it is a violent death. Like it is.
Oh, yeah.
Since we're fully into spoilers at this point, I mean, we see that racist kid grow up to be a real piece of shit, and I mean, he just gives me Donald Trump Jr. vibes. And then you have a guy just beat him and his friends to death with a bowling ball.
So that's kind of what I was like. I feel like we could have, if you were already doing an oversized issue, just do a little bit more where like maybe he thinks about getting the suit or like something. Like give me that last piece of it to get me to the cover. That was the only thing that I kind of like ran up against at the end. I was like, I get it. I get what we're going for. Like it's the same bowling ball for sure. But like you showed me this really you show me this really cool cover of like this costume vigilante. Like I want to know a little bit more about what that's going to be, right? So
yeah, and the really the last thing that I mean, the bowler character has the vibe. Like when I see the first bowling character, I think of the bowler from Mystery Men.
mm-hmm.
You know, Janine Garofalo's character that's lighthearted, and it's like, oh, it's her dad's head in the bowling ball, and she talks to it, you know, and it's wacky funny. And this, but then the next time we ever see superheroes in a bowling ball, I feel like it was in Daredevil, in that scene where the guy wishes to, you know, get in a game, and when the guy won't let him, he takes a ball, breaks his arm, and then beats his face in with the ball. That is exactly what this comic felt like. You went from comedy to violence.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, pick up Holy Roller this week and let us know what you thought about it in the comments. Thanks to Image for sharing this with us. We appreciate these previews. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Toucher Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Kill Your Darlings #3. This is a new book from ImageComics and KLC Press. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Ethan Parker and Griffin Sheridan, with art by Bob Quinn, letters by John J. Hill. So as you know, I've been following this series pretty closely. I've really been enjoying the evolution of the story, and of course everything that kind of comes together. This issue is no different from that. I think this is probably my favorite issue so far, because of a myriad of reasons, but we'll touch on those as we get through this. But let me talk a little bit about the synopsis here. In this issue, reunited with imaginary friend Wallace, Rose and Elliot journey back to save the kingdom of Rosewood. Somewhere deep within, the great and terrible evil waits for their arrival, the same one that destroyed Rose's life all those years ago. So yeah, I mean, once again, time has passed since the last time, and as with a lot of these issues, we begin with a look at the past and a different time. I think there's some really fun, subtle things. I think one of the advantages, or one of the things that this book really has going for it, is Bob Quinn is very good at capturing little moments and just giving you clues as to what's going on. Now I only have 2 of the pages of the of the flashback scene, because I don't. There's a page that carries a big, I think, emotional reveal, or just, or like it's some of the craziest thing I've seen really in this book, and I don't want to spoil that for anyone. So definitely, I think maybe we'll talk about it in the future. But going through this book, one of the cool things is, like, of course, we have a mystery, right? We don't know what's going on with all these backstories that we have prior to the opening of the book. And then we also have everything that we're following along with our main characters, with Rose and Elliot, and now Wallace. Um, Also, there, the exploration of how do we get to Rosewood, and once we're there, we get to see just a beautifully imagined world that is also full of, like, there's some eerie feelings, there's a darkness to it, there's a lot of stuff that's still also happening there. I don't have any preview art for that because it would be too spoilery, but Bob manages to do some stuff with the coloring that really blew my mind. Like, there's some stuff that I don't even understand how you would begin to imagine something like that, which I think is really cool. um I think color really plays a very big part of this specific issue, not only with the separation of, like, the real world and Rosewood, but also within Rosewood. There's a lot there's a lot that's being done with the color, and then also this comes even down to the lettering. I think John J. Hale truly shines in this issue, especially towards the end, where as a letterer he has to do something that I feel could be pretty difficult, and at least get a little confusing, but just because of pure skill and the way, like, know-how, like, it really is portrayed in the way that I feel it was intended to be portrayed. I'm kind of talking a little bit around it because I don't want to spoil anything, because this book is such a fun ride. So let's take a look at some of the preview art here. And as you can see, we have a couple of pages from the flashback, and I just love how they capture, like, all the little hints, like, 1887, the Eiffel Tower isn't fully built. So, but it gives you all the information you need to, like, where are you, what the time frame is. We have this new character that we don't know much about, and I just love how jovial he is as he's walking in, walking down back to his home. And then the sudden shift in color definitely tells you that there's something going on. And once again, these letters, like these sounds that you hear, the fact that they are colored in this bright red to contrast everything. And then once again, like I said, once you turn that page, there's just something there that really, it made me upset, but it really blew my mind. And then we follow along with our group. I think it's really interesting also to see how the town has changed since everything happened, as we follow along with Rose and Elliot. I really love Wallace. He's just, like, very capable character. Very, like, I feel like our characters are safe with him, at least for the moment. So that's really cool. And then, like I said, there's just some other stuff. There's so much stuff that I could show you, but I don't want to rob anyone of the experience of this third issue. Like I said, I think so far it's my favorite, and yeah, it was really, really good. A really cool storytelling. This Every time I think I have something kind of figured out, like where we may be going with the story, the book kind of swerves in a really fun direction. So yeah, I love the pacing of this book. I love the reveals, and just Bob Quinn doing some beautiful work with the art and the coloring, and of course John J. Hill just really killing it with all the lettering and the design of the book. So, like, I don't know, this book is just very well put together, which is crazy to, like, I don't know, like, I feel like there's not enough talk about just a book being a complete a work by the team. So very excited to see what happens next. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Universal Monsters Dracula #2. This is a new book from Image Skybound. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by James Tynion IV with art by Martin Simmons and letters by Rose Wooten. In this issue, As Lucy Weston suffers from a mysterious ailment, Dr. Seward calls upon Professor Abraham Van Helsing, and Dracula's thirst goes unquenched. Uh, my I don't have any expectations for this book because I don't know what even we are trying to explore after the first issue. But I am just so pleasantly surprised as to how engaged I am with the story of this. Like, and it's all very subtle. I really appreciate that Tinian and the team really are allowing the artwork to do a lot of the heavy lifting here. Dracula has such iconic imagery, and then Martin Simmons has such a unique style that allowing that to really kind of move us through this world, it's incredible. Of course, this is a very familiar story for anybody that is deep into the Dracula lore. We see a lot of very interesting characters. Another thing that this issue managed to do was that it made me feel bad for Renfield, who we met in the last issue, and then of course this book continues to very eerily and creepily and just like in the best fashion explore Dracula and all that he can do, how he sees people, how people kind of perceive somebody of his perceive the character, and then also how characters kind of behave around him, and then also behave within the town because they don't know exactly everything that's going on. There's some very cool reactions. I think also the use of the color red continues to be something that really propels the impactful moments in this story. I really, really enjoy that. So let's take a look at some of the preview art here so I can talk a little bit more about Martin Simmons and his work. And as you can see here, like the first couple of pages, we have a small conversation, but then the dialogue really drops off, right? And I think that gives me the feeling of like when you get distracted, like you're in the middle of talking to somebody, and then something catches your eye, which in this case the professor or Dr. Seward's kind of distracted by this figure, and I just love how Dracula is like the color stands out from everything else that is going around him, even from prior to that, like his full suit, he's got the black coat and the cape and all that, and the doctor's almost in a trance, and then of course as we move forward we just kind of get to see all this really like these smaller panels have such cool imagery in them. Like it is just really well done. I love the eerie feeling of just this dark street, and then the wolf and the fangs, like all those little hints of like Dracula kind of is always in the periphery. Like Dracula almost has his hands around this whole town, and it truly now belongs to him. And he's to do with it what he pleases, and it just goes to demonstrate like his power over like I guess what would be now his domain. I don't know. It's really cool. Like it just is. This book is doing a fantastic job at really making me feel afraid of Dracula, or like at least how the people in the town are starting to get that feeling of like there's something off going here. Of course, there's a larger inciting incident in this issue that will probably drive this story forward. And then with the introduction of Van Helsing, I think that really will kind of lead us into what the conflict is going to be further. So yeah, I love that this is just a miniseries, and I can't wait to see what else is going to happen in this world of the Universal monsters. Little did I know that comics is such a powerful medium for such an iconic character like this, as far as like there's just still so much you can do with Dracula and the exploration of it, and the lore and the story, and even if it's something that feels inconsequential to the Dracula mythos as a whole, we're experiencing something that just feels really cool in the moment. So I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, the team's doing such a fantastic job. So highly recommend you continue to check this out. If you haven't, make sure to go pick up Dracula number 1 and 2. And I want this book to succeed because I want Skybound to put out more Universal monsters. We need the Creature of the Black Lagoon series. So Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Hack Slash Back to School #2. Let's take a look at the creative team behind this book. This book has a story and art by Zoe Thorgood with color assist by Sarah Mitrish. Apologies if I mispronounced that. Flats by Ludwig X. And of course, Hack Slash was created by Tim Seeley and Stefano Caselli. And we'll see some of those covers at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. In this issue, Cassie Hack has gone back to school, slasher hunting school. We also meet Darla, an ex-Scream Queen dedicated to turning young girls into killing machines by way of the mysterious agency. And she's just in time as a host of an internet slasher's attack. My favorite thing about this book so far, it is that even though I know zero to very, very little about the hack slash world, this book does enough to fill in all those gaps. Like there's not a place where I ever feel lost, because all the characters, and there's a lot of character work in this book, which I also really appreciate. I think Zoe Thorgood's doing such a bang up job of just like giving all these characters such distinct voices. There's a lot of very fun, quippy dialogue, but then all that stuff is kind of intermingled with, oh yeah, this book is gory and it's full of really cool and intense shit. So like you're definitely gonna go for a ride. So it's, I don't know, it's such a fun way to strike this balance. So I'll talk a little bit more about the art, which is also pretty cool. It's like I'm really enjoying it. But let's take a look at some of the preview art here. And these are the first opening pages, and I just kind of love the contrast of, like, you know, we have this movie star who's getting ready for a shoot. Things are happening. Of course, everything goes awry as the movie massacre happens on set, and kind of we get a little bit more of a backstory on Darla and her origins and who she is and how she became who she is. But I just really like how the art style kind of changes, right? You see here how much detail there is to every aspect of how Darla's put together, and now they're really cool. And of course, a little fan service. I think fan service is a big part of this series, so we also get that. But then just the gore aspect of it as it changes in this third page, really enjoy that stuff. And there's so much more as we go to these next few pages. We get a lot of, this is where I was saying, we get a lot of cool dialogue, I think, from these characters. They all, I'm a big fan of the school aesthetic as far as like setting your story in a school, from either whether it's an X-Men story or something like this. I just love being in the school or an institute where characters are kind of forced to interact and build relationships. And then just the whole mixed media almost feeling of this, where Zoe just completely changes styles. And this is just a small taste of this. It happens more and more as the issue goes forward. But yeah, of course, I think Zoe has a very distinct style, but she's able to push the boundary into like other things. I love that they're just kind of watching this anime music video, which I don't know, these two kind of live in my head now. Such cool. And then, Cassie checking in on Vlad, like there's still a lot of very just subtle character development there. And as the issue continues, it gets even more and more, especially when we go into like the whole internet aspect of it all. It gets bonkers. But yeah, the characters are a lot of fun. The book looks beautiful and it's gory and it's weird and it's just super cool. Like, yeah, and like I mentioned before, you don't need a lot of knowledge, if any, to the hack slash series to kind of really get onto this. So yeah, it's just fun. This book is just fun and entertaining. So really enjoyed this second issue. I believe this is also a mini series, so I like that we're just kind of going to get a really nice, complete, succinct story. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Somna number 1. This is a new book from DSTRLY. This is written and drawn by both Becky Cloonan and Tula Lote, two fantastic creators. Here on the screen, you have the Becky Cloonan cover. We'll see more covers at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. In this book, this story revolves around Ingrid, a trapped in a loveless marriage with Roland, the town's chief witch hunter. As Roland embarks on a relentless quest to rid the town of heretics, a murder shakes the community to its core. Ingrid, with her own suspicions about the true culprit, finds herself drawn to a mysterious figure who might either hold the answers or lead her into danger. Yeah, I mean, here's the first thing I'll say about this book. It is spicy. So make sure to be aware when you're reading this. Maybe don't read this in public. I don't know. But yeah, it's a beautifully drawn. I mean, Tula Lote and Becky Cloonan are doing the art, so everything that you see here is going to look amazing. We have a really interesting approach, whereas Tula Lote is drawing more of the more fantastical scenes, like everything that seems to be a little bit more of either in Ingrid's imagination or in this other painterly, like very scratchy, very loose kind of style. Whereas Becky Cloonan's style is a little bit more, not so much realistic, but definitely more grounded. But it's such a cool contrast for the story. Like it just works when they go back and forth, and it informs the reader of like, am I in the real world? Am I seeing events that are true, or am I kind of following Ingrid's thoughts about this? Let's take a look at some of the preview art. And like I mentioned, you've been warned. I don't think I have anything explicit on the screen, but there are definitely some explicit pages in this book. And as you can see, Tula Lote's art is beautiful. She just draws beautiful characters, and I just love the exploration. Like the fact that we see this character kind of looking off into the distance, and then the zooming in on her face, her eyes, the hand gripping the covers, like all that stuff, just straight up, like I said, very sexy, very spicy, but also uh, very much informs the state of mind of what's going on in the story, and also the approach of whatever this figure is, right? We don't know much about this figure yet as we kind of follow through this story. And then in contrast here, we see a page from Becky Cloonan where we see somebody kind of being burnt. Well, I guess not kind of, definitely being burnt at the stake off in the distance. So there's a lot of contradiction in her life. There's a lot of mystery still because we don't know what's going on. And then I think there's also a lot of inner thoughts and desires that are kind of brought up to the front page in this story. So yeah, very cool. I'm very happy that DSTRLY is allowing us to preview and review these books in advance. Also, the quality of the DSTRLY books, if your shop is getting them, like the physical books are amazing. I've purchased both the one shot, The Devil's Cut, and Gone by Jacques, and both of those looked amazing. I can't wait to see what this looks like on Wednesday when I go to my shop to pick them up. So definitely some really cool stuff, and I'm super on board with these stories. I just love something that takes place like in a whole different world where I don't need to have read 20,000 issues or of something or whatever. So yeah. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for The Devil That Wears My Face number 2. This is a new book from MadCaveStudios. If you've been watching our videos on the channel, you know that we did a review for issue 1, an interview with David Pepos, and have been very excited to follow this journey. So let's take a look at the full creative team here. We have David Pepos as a writer, Alex Cormack as on art. We also have letters by Justin Birch. And in this issue, now trapped in Santiago's body, Father Vieri finds himself locked in the dungeon of the Castillo Lazarus. And at the end, at the sadistic mercies of the Inquisition. Yet, as this exorcist now burns at the touch of a cross, can Vieri escape the demon legion as he uses his body to paint the Vatican red. When suspicion mounts over the new host change demeanor, to what terrifying lengths will Legion go to avoid being discovered? As the devil lurks in the church's most prestigious sanctum, no one will be prepared for what happened next, and in one bloody instant, the fate of Rome will be changed forever. Yeah, so this book escalated very quickly. Legion wasted no time once he was inside of this body, Father Vieri's body, to start really messing things up. And it's been such a wild ride. I think all that paired up with the fantastic art by Cormac, it's insane. So just seeing Father Vieri trapped in this body, being tortured and being like, they're still trying to exorcise him because he's still, he keeps saying that it's the priest, obviously, but everyone around them just think that it's lies from the demon, which is, of course, what most people would think. There's some really graphic and gory effects, like, well, not effects, but like visuals. As you can see, you'll see a little bit. And I think I picked some of the more tame stuff to put on the preview pages. But boy, this book really goes for it. I think another thing I really enjoy is watching Legion kind of swagger around in the body of Father Vieri, and just kind of raising hell all over all over Rome, right? So let's go take a look at some of the preview art so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And here we see this is Father Vieri trapped in the body of Santiago, and he still burns at the touch of holy water, which I think is very interesting, right? Because there is no indication that this body is not possessed any further, other than maybe him not violently killing everyone around him anymore. Um, so very interesting that he's. I guess once you are, I don't know how this works. Maybe they'll go a little bit more into it in later issues, but it's not something that I'm running up against. I just think it's very interesting. And then here's one of my favorite panel. You'll see it on the next page here. Father Vier or Legion, I guess, running around. I just love all the details, like this, all the little, I guess they're like eyes or demonic whatever things that are kind of following him around. And this panel in the middle of this page of him just walking around with that devil swag in the Vatican, it's insane. And yeah, like I said, things escalate very quickly. This is so much fun. This is one of my favorite books because it really takes a lot of things that I enjoy in media, which is like exorcist stuff, and also like body swapping, like face off and stuff like that. I think that's just such a cool concept. Trying to figure out what beings or people would do when they're in a different person. Of course, Face Off I love that movie. I think it's great, and I think this book captures some of the coolest things that I like from that film, which is pretty much the bad guy trying to act like the person whose body they're in, while still, when they're alone, when they're in those moments by themselves, they're still act like their old selves. So like, it's such a cool juxtaposition. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Saint Seiya Knights of the Zodiac Time Odyssey number 2. This is a new book from AblazeComics. It's semi-new. This came out actually a couple of weeks ago from when you're watching this video. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book, with a story by Masami Kurata, Jerome Alque, and Arnaud Dolan, of course, based on Masami's work on the original manga, with art by Jerome Alque, letters by Saida Timofonte. So, in this issue, Kronos' plan to change events in the past, present, and future to become the next god to stand upon Olympus are revealed. His actions will pit Iki, the Phoenix Knight, against deadly new enemies and drag him back into the life he thought he had left behind. So I appreciate that we're getting a lot more context of like when this is supposed to be, the time frame of this. I think it's really interesting to see kind of like the events that were happening before and after. I like the awareness that this event feels like something really big that happened. I think Kronos is a really interesting character to bring on as a deity that wants to become part of Olympus and part of that, part of the rest of the sanctuary gods. So I think that's very cool for sure. And we get to see a lot of that in this issue. Like I've mentioned before, I'm a big fan of this uh, manga, anime, and just seeing it in a whole different medium, like a comic book. It's very cool. I think it's very well adapted. I think they really capture the voices of these characters. I don't know what the writer and artist. I don't know their relationship with the original material, but I think they're definitely two individuals that for sure know a lot about the lore here and know what it's supposed to kind of feel like. So really appreciate that. We get to see a lot of the intentions. We get to expand on these hours. I always loved one thing is that in this manga anime, obviously things have a lot to do with specific items like constellations or the 12 houses of the zodiac, like for the gold nights and stuff like that. Kronos, his own nights are based on the hours, so each one of them is an hour on the clock, if you will. So that's a very cool concept. um, let's take a look at some of the preview art here. And like I said, this looks beautiful. This looks straight out. I don't know if this, I mean, I would not be surprised if this artist just really referenced a lot of the anime, because the color palette as well really reflects what I remember from that time. But then it's really cool. We finally get to see Kronos. I love the way that he's kind of just like this entity, almost as a hollow, not real personality, right? It's just more like a being that is there. If you're familiar with Marvel comics, reminds me a lot of the concept of eternity. So I also think his plan to become part of that pantheon of gods in Olympus makes a lot of sense. It's a great motivation, and I just love that. Of course, as the god of time, he would be very aware of events that are happening in the past, present, and future, including anything that could stop his plan from coming to fruition, which in this case is Iki, the Phoenix Knight, becoming the embodiment of Hades in the future as his reincarnation. Very cool concept. I love the designs for Iki's outfit as Hades. I would not be mad at that. I mean, I know that's probably not what's going to end up happening, because Iki's such a badass character. Like, he is the bad boy of the five Bronze Knights that we kind of follow along. So it's very, very cool. Another thing that I really appreciate on these issues is the back matter. There's some really cool stuff, like design stuff, like really behind the scenes type of it really explains a lot more of the collaboration between the creators and their kind of take. You get to see a little bit of the hours and the stigma that we met on the first issue, how they kind of work. Like, they explain how they are, like, different parts of the clock that kind of reveal at different angles. It's all very, like, it is just a fun way to approach this. We get to see some original designs from the armors from back in the day, and then just all the little Easter eggs as to, like, the statue of Athena, where that comes from, right? The redesign of the armors for the Bronze Knights and how they're adapting this, and even some of the putting together the covers and stuff like that. There's a lot more pages. I only shared a few things that I wanted you guys to show, but this is exciting stuff. It's excellent stuff. I really, really love it. There's some really cool variant covers, which I picked up a couple of them actually. I don't have any pictures of those, but if you see those at your shop, make sure to pick them up. I want them to do more stuff like this. This is just going to be a 5-issue miniseries, so I'm very excited to kind of follow through on that. We'll probably have videos for all that stuff in the channel, so stay tuned in the future. And if you have read this, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.